Hey there, this is your teacher, Mr. H, and you're watching History in a Hoodie. Today's episode is about Georgia's growth in the modern era, where we will learn all about what made our state into the jewel of the South today. I can't wait to find out, so let's get this show started. What are we learning about today? The standard for today's lesson asks the students to explain how the continued development of Atlanta under mayors Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young impacted the state. Then, we will evaluate the short-term and long-term impacts of hosting the 1996 Olympics, the Savannah port expansion, and the film industry on Georgia's economic and population growth. Finally, we will explain how the four transportation systems, road, air, water, and rail, of Georgia contribute to the development and growth of the state's economy. Before we start, let's go over some vocabulary for today's lesson. Tourism is the operation of vacation destinations and places of interest to visit. The Centennial Olympic Games were the 100th anniversary of the modern Olympics, held in Atlanta in 1996. Pinewood Studios is the movie studio based out of Georgia, supported by the movie tax credit. The Savannah Harbor Expansion Project is the project to deepen and expand Savannah Harbor to allow larger capacity ships transportation. On September 18, 1990, the president of the International Olympics Committee announced they had awarded the 1996 Olympic Games to the city of Atlanta. Atlanta, not even a top 25 population-sized city in the 1990s. Atlanta, only the fourth city in the United States to host an Olympics, ahead of much larger and established cities like Chicago, Dallas, Miami, and San Francisco. How could this be possible? The Centennial Olympic Games were just one of the major events that would come to Atlanta and Georgia in the last 30 years. Our capital city beat out England, Greece, Australia, and Canada to host the Summer Games of 1996, a major feat. These games required the construction or renovation of more than a dozen athletic stadiums, including Olympic Stadium, which would play home for the Braves for 20 years after. The construction brought jobs and money to Georgians, a phrase that you're going to be hearing a lot. Hotels, dorms, and apartments were built for the athletes and tourists. Highways were expanded and repaved. The city was cleaned up to remove urban decay that Atlanta had been experiencing. New attractions like the Georgia Aquarium were beginning to be built with the increased interest in tourism, all of which brought jobs and money to Georgians. The Atlanta Games began in August of 1996 and had its successes and its failures. Some of the high-water moments of the Games include the Muhammad Ali lighting of the Olympic torch at the opening ceremonies, the Magnificent Seven women's gymnastics team winning gold, and American Michael Johnson winning the title of world's fastest man in the 200-meter race. The big failure of the Olympics was a security lapse, where domestic terrorist Eric Robert Rudolph was able to blow up 3 pipe bombs in the middle of a celebration concert at Centennial Park, resulting in 2 deaths and more than 100 injuries. Rudolph would be captured and sentenced to life in prison. Though the Centennial Park bombing was definitely a black mark on the Games, Atlanta pulled off a stunning surprise with how successful the Olympics were. No one was complaining about the transportation, the highways, or the airport. The success of the Games really brought attention to Atlanta as an international city, and led to more recognition and events over the following decades. Since the Olympics, Atlanta has hosted 2 Super Bowls, MLB All-Star Games, college football championships and major bowl games, huge conventions like Dragon Con, and more. Major businesses have made Atlanta their hub due to the easy access to transportation, including Delta Airlines, Home Depot, Aflac, Coca-Cola, SunTrust Bank, and UPS. Only New York City and Houston have more Fortune 500 companies. All of these businesses bring jobs and money to Georgians. Entering the 21st century, Georgia continues to expand its economy, and one such area has been in the film industry. Many of you know all about Hollywood studios in California, but how many of you have heard about Pinewood Studios in Atlanta? Since the early 2000s, Georgia has had a law in tax incentive for movie production that happens in our state. In the last few years, that has resulted in more than a dozen major feature films and TV shows being produced in Georgia each year, including such blockbusters as the Avenger franchise, The Walking Dead, Stranger Things, the Hunger Games trilogy, Real Housewives of Atlanta, Zombieland, the Fast and the Furious franchise, Tyler Perry's Medea franchise, and many, many more. Tyler Perry is currently working on renovating Fort McPherson into the biggest movie studio in the Southeast. All of this movie production, of course, results in jobs and money for Georgians. In fact, if you really wanted, you could get yourself into a movie as an extra just by looking up Pinewood Studios. A couple of our own students have appeared in shows like Walking Dead and Stranger Things. So what? How did Georgia become so fortunate in economic growth? You cannot overlook the importance of transportation networks in what makes Atlanta different from, say, Topeka, Kansas. The state of Georgia has 4 major transportation networks, and all 4 of them are the strongest in the region. Interstate highways, the international airport, railways, and deep-water seaports. Atlanta and Georgia are crisscrossed by 3 major interstate highways that spread out across the region. Interstate 75, which runs right through our county, runs north and south through Atlanta and connects to major cities like Chattanooga, Tampa, Lexington, Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Detroit. Interstate 85, also north-south, connects Atlanta to Richmond, Virginia, Montgomery, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Finally, Interstate 20, running east-west, connects Dallas, Birmingham, Alabama, and Columbia, South Carolina. All of these highways make Atlanta the center of the Southeast region and bring jobs and money to Georgians. Major seaports in Savannah and Brunswick have connected Georgia to the rest of the world with international training for years. But in the next several years, there will be additional growth. The Savannah Harbor Expansion Project is underway, which will deepen the harbor and expand ports to handle ships with 3 times the current capacity. Heavier loads means more trade, and more trade, plus the construction of the port expansion, means more jobs and money for Georgians. You already know that William B. Hartsfield was a major leader in bringing air travel to Atlanta. The Atlanta airport opened in the early 20th century, but was limited to local air travel for years because it lacked an international terminal. Atlanta Mayor Maynard Jackson's major accomplishment was to bring that international terminal to expand the airport. That, of course, isn't Mayor Jackson's only accomplishment, as he was Atlanta's first black mayor and the first black mayor of any major southern city. Maynard Jackson also played a role in the 1996 games, but another Atlanta mayor, Andrew Young, was the leader in the push for Atlanta to host the games. Andrew Young was a local civil rights leader in his youth and would go on to become Atlanta's mayor for multiple terms after Jackson. Both Jackson and Young saw the potential in Atlanta, and they went to work building the transportation systems to make sure that that potential would be realized. Their work, along with Hartsfield and Ivan Allen Jr., cannot be understated to how important they were to making Atlanta and Georgia what it is today. Wow, so learning about Georgia's modern growth is really important for us to understand. I'm glad we learned it today. Are you ready for some review questions? Who was the first African American mayor of Atlanta? What kind of legacy did the 1996 Olympics leave in Atlanta? Which event disrupted the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta? How does the Savannah Harbor Expansion Project impact the people living in the region? Blockbuster movies like The Avengers and The Fast and the Furious, and TV shows like The Walking Dead and Stranger Things are filmed in Atlanta because... I hope all of you learned a lot from today's episode of History in a Hoodie about Georgia in the modern era. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Just kidding, I don't care about that stuff. But do make sure you study this lesson. Bye now.